You know, folks, that music, I guess I'm the only one that likes it anymore, but it means another edition of Citizen Watch. The weather's finally cooling down.
Can we pick a new song?
We are. We're actually going to do a new commercial. And we're going to pick one of Robert's favorites, Captain and Tennille. But, folks, this is
Love.
September 20th. We played that once before. This is September 20th here on KYOS. It's Saturday morning. The weather is finally cooling down. My gosh. Almost 50 days of 100-degree weather plus here in the valley this summer. Very, very interesting. What's that?
All my friends are going to know that this was taped on Thursday because if you're hearing me, I'm on a boat.
Robert's on the Love Boat, making another run.
You know what I'm going to do? Ralph Williams and I, we're going to sit on the Lido deck with Isaac.
Every boat has a Lido deck. Yes. What the heck does Lido mean?
I have no idea. Right. We're going to have a Lido deck. We're going to hang out with Isaac, and we're going to talk to people like Ralph Bellamy, Ricardo Montalban. You never remember
Bellamy.
Remember Love Boat? And he used to have all the old...
You're talking about Michael Bellamy.
No.
Bellamy, huh? No, they used
Ralph
to have stars.
Bellamy.
Yeah, the Love Boat, one of the, that dates ourselves here,
Doesn't
folks.
it, though? But all of the actors and actresses, the two-bit actors, that was trash TV.
Come on.
Yeah, come on. You had Martha Ray, please. Really? You had Martha Ray doing a little skit, red buttons before he died. I mean, it was like, Love Boat was kind of fun, though.
Yeah, I like the Love Boat. But, folks, here we are at Citizen Watch from the palatial Studio C. Robert Tomasetti,
I'm on the boat.
If he would just be quiet, sitting across from me.
Love Boat.
I'm Casey Steed, and again, we come to you every week. Saturday morning, 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. You know, and I haven't given out that tip line. It's area code 209-406-8728. And I had somebody call me. I want to just talk about that. I told him I maybe wouldn't be able to get to that until this week. He lives out in, I guess it would be South County over there on Bailey Road by Gurr and Thornton Road, and has an issue with the county.
Actually, west
part of the county. Talked about have some commercial trucking over there, and the area isn't zoned for that. And he had reached out to Supervisor Davis and was very disappointed in the response he got from the county. I'm not. Yeah,
he's disappointed at a response.
Well, when he
wait
called,
till I tell you what happened the other day. But go ahead.
Well, when he called me about Supervisor Davis, I told him. I said, well, you know, he's technically a lame duck, and
it looks like a lame duck.
He's not going to
you
be.
Ever see a lame duck?
Not going to be in. I've seen a goose, lame goose. Well,
lame
no, your geese aren't lame. But anyway, Supervisor Davis is ending up his tenure on the Board of Supervisors.
It's comatose.
And it's one of those deals where he's going to be out of office the first of the year. We were kind of critical of him hiring a assistant after he lost the election. We kind of teased that maybe he needed somebody to help pack his office. But anyway, this gentleman called, and over there on Thornton Road, Gurr and Thornton area off of Bailey, there's people that have evidently bought properties, and they're running huge trucks up and down the road, 80,000-pound trucks, tearing up the road. He indicated, this gentleman, that the area is not zoned for it. He contacted Lynn Davis to look into it, and basically got no response. Said that, well, there's no issue here.
And called Tony.
Well,
or Darren. No, I'm serious.
I suggested that. I said, that Davis is. I said this may be a good issue to talk about the next supervisor that's going to be in office, which will either be Tony Dosetti, or depending on which way the wind blows, or Darren McDaniel. So it's one of those deals where that might be an option for folks because as we know, when these political people are running, they seem to take under their wing the current political issue and not necessarily make promises, but try to appeal to the folks.
But wait a minute. Mm-hmm. I live on Martin Luther King 21st.
Yes.
Do you know the trucks that come down Martin Luther King that made a wrong turn and end up
I saw that last night, a Via bus. Guy was looking around
Via bus goes to the bus stop, okay?
No, but they were coming down your road.
I'm talking Walmart.
Oh.
I'm talking huge 18-wheelers that coming down 21st Street because they make... And nobody says anything. And, I like Mark. I'm Mark. This is not Mark. This is Norman Droddy. Mm-hmm. I think he does a good job.
Police chief.
But I think his police department sucks.
Why? Now, come on. That's a little hard.
Really?
When you say its department sucks. I don't agree
terrible.
with that.
I'm going to tell you why it's terrible.
Okay.
Everybody's on cell phones again. Police department goes past them, looks at them, laughs.
I don't think that's just Andrade's department.
But wait a minute.
I think that's the sheriff's.
Excuse me. No seatbelts. People roll through stop signs. We don't give tickets anymore.
You have to realize, now something you don't realize, and I'm going to clue you in. What is it, buddy? They have lap belt only in police cars. They do not have to wear a
Not
shoulder belt.
them.
Who are you
Not
talking
the-
about?
I'm talking about people that.
Well, stay on subject.
Public,
You said
it
you
is.
say you're upset
The
with the
public-
police department
because they don't give out tickets anymore.
Well, no,
They
no.
don't
Who's
pull
on
anybody.
cell phones then? The police department or
No,
the public?
people. The public are on cell phones. It's illegal.
No, you said you were upset with Norm's police department. They're doing a crappy job. Why?
Because they don't crack down on traffic violations. I got a load of people that drive past my stop sign. They don't even turn signals on. I'm passing people looking around. They pass me on the right-hand side of the road in oncoming traffic. It's terrible.
On oncoming traffic.
When you go to Parallel Park on Main Street, 19th Street or 18th Street, like
Right.
we do,
Yeah.
okay, over there at Wire,
They're supposed to stop.
they're supposed to stop, and they don't. They go around us because they're in a hurry.
There's
and
a
the
lot
police-
of bad drivers out there. I thought you were saying the
No,
police
when
department.
they're not cracking down on anything. I mean, come on. The city should be cracking down. What happens is what we tolerate them becomes acceptable. So we got crappy drivers, and what happens? Crappy driving becomes now the norm. And let me give you an example. I'm driving to here,
Yes.
and I'm
Station.
on to the station. I go past the unemployment office from the Italo here on 18th Street.
Yes.
A lady turns into
Sonic.
me, goes out in front of me. I'm now, instead of, she's in the left-hand turn lane, she crosses over and I go beep, beep, beep. And she goes, "I'm sorry, but I don't have a mirror." I said, "That's not an answer. Get a mirror."
Yeah, that's an equipment violation.
But the problem is there's a police officer right there and does nothing. And I'm getting tired of driving around town. Almost, I'm going to have to wear a hazmat outfit and bumper car equipment because I can't trust the police department to give out tickets and to crack down on violations of traffic infractions that are audacious. You're in the left-hand turn lane going on Olive and you don't even have a turn signal on. And then you complain when somebody goes, "Hey, what's up?" Hey! It's terrible. If the police would stop and they would do their jobs, but you know what? I'm going to give a ticket. It's too much time. I got to call. There's only 3 of us out here.
Well, I think that might be part of the problem is manpower. I know that they've been doing more with
But it's
less.
their perception, Case. It's the perception.
Anyway, we get way off the subject here sometimes on
No,
Citizen
we
Watch.
did
But
good.
anyway, this gentleman called and he was worried about zoning issues and again violation of signs. Trucks only traffic.
Exactly.
That
Did they
sort of
give
thing.
anybody tickets?
Well, it's still being determined whether there's a problem, and the issue is what Lynn Davis did or didn't do about it to satisfy this constituent's response. And as you said, maybe it's time to move on up the political ladder to the new people that are going to be coming into District.
Well, I know
3.
what Tony's going to do. Tony will say, "Well, let me look into it.
Yeah.
Vote for me, and I'll talk to you in November."
Let's have a study. But there was some
But you
interesting.
get my point.
No, I get your point. I understand your
It gets
frustration.
aggravating
I
because-
don't think our listeners necessarily want the police department going out and writing massive amounts of
No,
tickets.
but you know what?
There's
If
some
you-
egregious things that are going on out there.
Exactly. And the worst one is driving with no turn signal. And I'm always like, "Excuse me, mister. Yeah, that's a nice Lincoln, but you don't have a right turn signal working."
Yeah, I have to admit
Yes, come on.
I
were in the car together.
had an issue with the turn signal, but I was using my hands, so you do have to watch
Yeah,
out for
but
those
you're
hands.
but you understand that.
No, I do understand that.
But
Anyway,
I'm on a rant today. I am not in a happy mood, and
we might as well bring it up. One of the things that was in
Bring
the
it up.
paper this week was
17 things.
was about the poverty.
Nope, that's not the one I'm upset
Well,
about.
what are you upset about?
First of all, let's give a kudo out to make me feel nicer so I don't rant like I did on the police department.
Is
Because you know what? Norm does a good job. He tries to do a good job.
yeah, I think you're a little reactionary, but that's just me. Maybe,
Really?
I think,
I'm sorry, but I can't come to your house. You're only 2 blocks from the police department because we don't have enough people. So you drive past the police department. You got 5 guys sitting there talking to some toots.
Okay, what do you think? Well,
Okay, come on.
What do you think about his DART team?
What are they doing?
Well, they're supposedly disruptive area response team. They've gone down
Disruptive
here on
area?
the stroll. They've tried to get the transients moved along.
Dan, okay.
I mean, he's
When
trying. He's trying.
No, that's not my point. My point of the matter is that a police officer's job during the day is to drive around and curtail infractions and problems that he sees. When he drives with his head up his rumpus and doesn't see a guy in front of him blow a stop sign or not use a turn signal, because that is now the norm. And that's the problem. The police department don't even use a turn signal or stop at stop signs. So to them, it's the norm. Oh, well, whatever.
Well, that's why I thought you were headed, because I know
No,
they do
because I
on
see
their
people
cell phones.
I see people on their cell phones all the time. It's an illegal infraction. I know when they first came out with the grant money, boy, they were writing cell phone tickets left and right.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're next to them on a phone, looking at them, and they laugh at each other, and you move on with life.
and seatbelt tickets. But
But the point is that's income that's rightfully belongs to the city.
Right.
Okay, that's income to the city. Okay, for doing something wrong. I did something wrong. I got a $273 ticket for blowing a stop sign.
Yeah.
I paid it, and I moved on with life, and I was wrong. But the point of the matter was, it possibly saved my life.
Right. Well, and you bring up a good point. These drivers out there that are driving around nutso, and we hear about it. That's why they do the enforcement that they do.
Right. And now my problem is pushing on to, first of all, I want to give a kudo and calm down a little bit. I really appreciated, I disagreed with some things, and you and I talked about it, but I really appreciated they did a mark of love, placed in the park, a coworkers pay for a memorial. I guess there was a gentleman who, by the name of Danny Amaral, who was very well loved.
The City of Merced worker and his co-workers erected a monument over at
Paid for it themselves.
Over at Richard Bernasconi Park.
Did you ever meet Richard Bernasconi?
No. He evidently died of cancer, this worker, and his co-workers.
But the kudo.
Got the money together and put in the money.
And also, we had, of course, Stefan Gray. His memorial is going to go on forever. But the situation is that the police association came up and paid for his memorial out of their own pocket.
There
was
another individual on that memorial, too, besides Mr.
And I think it's awesome that they took it upon themselves. Look, we want a memorial. We paid for the memorial. We didn't ask for public money. We didn't ask for public assistance. We didn't go to the city.
Yeah, I think it was a nice gesture by their coworkers. So
I'll get to my rants.
Encourage people to go over there. Well, one of the things we saw in the paper, I maybe jumped the gun, was the poverty rate that came out this week in Merced County. And the issue is, folks, is we've always harped on the dismal job situation here in Merced County, the city of Merced. Pick a city. I mean, Atwater. Gosh, we're all going through fiscal struggles. And it's just disappointing to see these numbers come out. We know about it, but to see them, in black and white in the paper, very, very disappointing. The rates, 35% poverty rate, 35% here in the city of Merced. The county is about 25%. These are way over what the national average is.
Stanislaus County is 22. Merced County is 25.
Way over what the national average is, and of course our surrounding counties, as Robert just interrupted, are doing much better. No, that's okay. Anyway, it's one of those deals where I think that we look at the unemployment rate. We're almost double what the national average is. We look at the median income. We look at our education, and we're low on all of these things. And
so why don't we get a big broom, huge broom, start with Scambria at the first for Merced Union High School District, because you're not doing your job. I don't care how much of a kudo you give yourself for El Capitan High School. Okay, your kids aren't learning anything. You can't even get school teachers to work for you. It's terrible. And you look at the data on page A3, and it says high school diploma, Merced County, 67% of our people have a high school diploma. The average in the United States is 87%. So 20% less. Now, you tell me what people with any kind of real go-get-em jobs are going to come here when you got 40% of your people at 35 years old or older that can't even or don't even have a high school diploma. Now, bachelor's degree, that's at 13%. California is at 31%. So if you're going to want to come here where something needs to be like education-driven, bypass this place, because I'm telling you, everywhere else but here. Turlock is at 21%. Now, there's some hope there because Turlock has what?
21% what? What numbers are you throwing?
20% of Turlock, 21.5% of Turlock residents have a college bachelor's degree. Mm-hmm. Now, they have a school there. Now, that may be why their numbers are very, very good. Ours are only at 13.
Yeah.
Okay, that's terrible.
It is, and it goes to what we can attract as far as business. That's why the Walmart Distribution Center
was important.
Was a good fit for Merced. When you have this kind of workforce, what they call low to mid-level skills, these are the kind of employers you attract, and yet we had folks that were less than positive about those type of jobs, said, well, those aren't the type of jobs we need. They don't offer living wages. They don't offer opportunity. They just keep people in poverty. And I tell you, you're wrong. You're wrong, because those are jobs that we needed, not only the construction jobs, but the jobs that they would have brought. 1,500 jobs.
You are
in that
absolutely right.
And this is where we rail against the John Carlyles, the Renee Davenports that constantly wring their hands. Their hearts bleed for the less fortunate among us. Well, there are a lot of less fortunate, and you have found your utopia, Mr. Carlyle and Ms. Davenport, because you have no shortage of poverty here in which to rail against. But you have to ask, why did it happen? And what Robert is saying saying is to stop it. We need new leadership.
Take a broom. People, when you look at the family income, and you look at Merced County went backwards 13%, Merced City went backwards 17%, when everything else inched along in the pluses. Stanislaus County to the north had a 9% plus change.
How many times have you heard folks from your city leaders, your county leaders, we see the light at the end of the tunnel, we've turned the corner, we've hit the bottom, we're on our way up.
Where?
But it's not true. These numbers prove it. You have less buying power. You have more taxes, more fees, more regulation, more cost. Gas is not getting any cheaper. It's certainly not going to get any cheaper the first of the year. And here we have less buying power. It just puts people in poverty.
Well,
some of the quotes in the paper from these people are
ridiculous.
Well, they're very. I'm talking about the people that found themselves homeless. Very, very eye-opening when they had good jobs just a few years ago, and they talk about how many people are truly living paycheck to paycheck and could find themselves in this situation. I think a lot of people are.
I am, but I'm a single guy. I mean, if I fall on hard times, it's on me. I don't have a family that I'm caretaking to. But here's the thing that bugged me. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I always talk about Mike Belwomany and the piece of land. Okay,
the campus parkway,
area,
the business park
exactly.
over there.
Okay, Manteca didn't have a lot of rocket scientists when they first started out. Right. It was a bedroom community.
That's right. Wide spot in the road. It had a water park.
That was it. It did. It had a water park. Yeah. What happened is Manteca started pulling jobs from the Bay Area in transportation, centers of lumping jobs. Did you see what the median income is for Manteca?
No.
$71,000 is the median income.
What's Merced's?
Okay, it's Manteca is the highest on this list, higher than the median income. Manteca's income was higher by 14.6%.
Right.
I would love to know what Tracy's was, because what I'm showing and what I rail about continually is lumping jobs. Yeah, I'm sorry we don't have the greatest rocket scientists in our area, but you know what? We have lumpers. We have people that have high school education or no. How hard is it to take a box and move it from there to there? It's not. You get good jobs. It starts ratcheting up the income, the median income, and Merced gets out of the doldrums.
Yeah, it was interesting. The mayor's comment, Mayor Thurston said, we need to have a study to determine, why we have this problem. I think we know. We need jobs.
You know why? Because
we need industry. We need people to stay here.
By the time the study comes out, he'll already be termed out and nobody will want to kick his butt.
I know it's a very, very difficult problem. But, folks, we're coming to the end of our first segment on
and
Citizen
I want
Watch.
to come back to this on
No,
one
we
thing.
are. We're going to come right back after the break. We encourage you to stay with us here on this cool Saturday morning. Enjoy it. It's finally here on AM 1480, the voice of the valley, KYOS. Stand by. In studio today, we have Mike Murphy from Merced City Council. Mike, I appreciate you coming in. I wanted to get you in here and talk about the last city council meeting. We had some really interesting things happen. One of them was the Parsons Avenue. I want to talk to you more than just Parsons Avenue. We have McNamara Park. Just to give you a little heads up, we have McNamara Park. We have the Business Incubator. Of course, you just came off the 125th anniversary of the Merced County, or City of Merced celebration. Very, very successful Mercy Gulch days. But last Monday, Parsons Avenue came up before the board, the city, I kept doing that. Came up before the city council. The residents had wanted to bring this up to the council, have it looked at again in reference to the general plan. I think they've been talking about it for the last year. They finally got their moment in the sun, if you will, Monday night. And what happened?
Yeah, so thanks for having me on the show, KYOS.
You're welcome.
I always like coming. So on the Parsons Avenue discussion that happened at our council meeting on Monday evening, the takeaway I think is that the Parsons Avenue corridor has been in the general plan since the 1950s, and over the course of the decades, it's gone through several iterations of the general plan, and most recently that was general plan that was the 2030 general plan that was adopted in 2012.
Just a couple of years ago.
So just a couple of years ago, in the grand scheme of the lifespan of that planning document, still relatively young. So there are residents that have asked us to reconsider that.
Yes, that's what the meeting was.
Yeah,
right?
so that's what the meeting was, and I think there's a lot of support to look at things with fresh eyes, to have a dedicated meeting about it as opposed to just coming up during the 5-minute public comment period, but actually to have a dedicated time to talk about it. and to agendize it and let people from all sides come. And so that's what we tried to do, and so we did on Monday evening. We had that discussion, and it was a very spirited discussion. And in the end, it ended with several tied votes, 3-3. We were only 6 out of 7 council members that evening.
And there were 3 options to vote on, correct?
There were 3 options to vote on. One option was to sort of ignore Parsons Avenue for a couple years.
Not take it out of the general plan, but to just maybe not commit the resources, city staff.
That's right. Not commit the resources to it, sort of make a conscious decision not to pursue it, but something short of taking it out of the general plan. There's some risks to that, some legal risks. If you, by resolution, try to do something that overrides your general plan, it's sort of seen as an end run around your general plan. So the second option was to sort of tackle that head on and spend the money, something in the order of $300,000 to $500,000 to do a new traffic circulation study.
Wow,
as well as
$500,000.
Yeah.
So it's not just saying, "Hey, take it out and go from there." You
No,
have to say why, because these general plans, they're a plan for future councils, not just you. And if you aren't successful in being reelected, we have a plan that we try to follow, right? And that's why these things are in the plan.
That's right. That's
so
what,
to take them out just isn't as simple as the whim of a current council.
Yeah, and this type of general plan amendment is different from, say, a zone change on a particular parcel, mainly because the way that it impacts the entire city. We're talking about a road that's intended to be connected potentially at some point. We don't have the funding to do that anytime in the short term.
Right.
But so it impacts traffic. You take Parsons Avenue out, and then you've got to do a new traffic circulation element to your general plan. And then the third option was to sort of status quo, keep Parsons in the mix of projects. It's among many projects. It's not the only road project we have. Definitely the University Parkway is top of mind for a lot of
we
council
talked about
members.
priorities, and I think the 2 that came in before Parsons was the University Campus Parkway, or Campus Parkway, and Highway 59. Was that the second one?
Right. Those were both topics of discussion. University Parkway is a big priority for this council, mainly because the access it has to additional retail space
Right.
and industrial space on along Highway 99. And, the city has built part of that expressway,
Yes.
and we're getting to the point where it's got to be built on county land to connect to 140 and out to UC Merced. We were lobbying hard to get some federal dollars to pay for that.
Tiger grant.
And
Unfortunately, we
unfortunately,
didn't.
just in the last week, we were informed that.
And you bring up
we
a
didn't
good
get
point
that.
about Campus Parkway. It is in the county, and even though we may want to commit Parsons resources to that, we're kind of tied because we do have to work with McCag and Caltrans, and
Right.
gosh,
And-
only know who's else.
Yeah, and frankly, we're putting up a large portion of money. Part of our Tiger Grant application was the city of Merced putting in a couple $1 million of its own money.
Right.
And then the other one was Highway 59, which of course is a state highway. Talking about North Highway 59 here.
Right, and that's not the portion not down Martin Luther King, but over there by
North
the
of 16th.
Walmarts.
Yeah,
over there.
and north of Olive.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
North of. Okay.
So
That bridge,
we've got
'cause
some.
I know you're familiar with that bridge and how tight
am.
it is, and school buses and
I
things that
am,
happen there, and that
I've
was
mentioned, yeah.
one of the concerns.
Sure, and I've mentioned on a couple occasions my son was on a school bus that was run off the road by a semi truck trying to cross that bridge at the same time. So I can tell you it's a high priority. It's a state highway.
Right.
It's not a city street. So we're working on all those things. And the result of Monday's meeting was that there wasn't enough support from the council to take it out. And so in the absence of that, we move forward. That doesn't mean that Parsons is going to happen overnight or anytime soon. It's been a puzzle that Merced's tried to put together for some number of years. Most recently, there was the completion of what's called the Ada Givens Gap.
Yes, that was somewhat controversial. The residents over there felt that they woke up one morning and suddenly there were construction crews working.
Well,
It wasn't quite that simple.
Right, they shouldn't have felt that way. We of course had a lot of debate in our meetings about that.
Right.
But I can tell you, I've got 2 kids that go to Ada Givens,
That's right.
and they play soccer there on Saturday as well. And having that extra access, I think, is important from a public safety perspective.
I think we talked about that when we did it, that the kids wouldn't have to walk across fields. It'd be a little more
right.
accessible.
In fact, and I mentioned this in the council meeting, I was there last year for a school function out for field day and had to call 911 for a fifth grader. And I was happy that the first responders had that additional access to get in.
Why I would never ask you to justify or try to elaborate on what the other council members did on Monday night, but you yourself, which of the three proposals were you supportive, or did you think was the best after hearing the folks talk, and where do you think it's headed from here?
Well, what I supported was to keep Parsons in the mix as a sort of a long-term project. I think as you look at these types of decisions, these aren't the fun ones. It's not that you know that whatever decision you make, not everyone's going to be happy.
So you see, as we talked about a little earlier, that the benefit to the city is greater than the detriment to maybe the folks, and maybe not even just the Parson people. We talked about the school district. I know they had some concerns.
And those shouldn't be taken lightly. I think when we get to that point of connecting some of these corridors, some of these streets to make it a real corridor, we're going to have some real discussions about that and what the mitigation measures are going to be, and traffic calming and the other things. So this isn't in any way a done deal, but I think you have to approach it from the perspective of what's even and fair.
Right. And sometimes that's a hard balance to strike. I know I've been on the losing side of some issues that I felt wish have gone the other way. And they're hard. And it's a grieving process almost. I forget what the 5 stages of, but the first one is anger. I know that. And when it doesn't go your way, you feel visceral about things. And I think we saw that Monday night a little bit. And I would encourage people to go on YouTube. The city has a very good channel where they stream these meetings. I understand there were some problems with the streaming, but there is a record of that, and you can see what these folks' position are. And I wanted to bring Mike in and talk about it and just kind of maybe just give an indication on where this is headed, because really nothing was decided Monday night. There was some direction of the council. I saw in the vote of the 4-2 where to take it out of the general plan. That was not the direction of the council. Like you say, that costs $500,000 or more dollars.
It cost $500,000 to take out a project that is just on paper anyway, that we don't really have funds to do anyway.
Now, let me ask you, in defense of some of the council people that wanted to do a smaller study to look at what happens if we took out just Parson. Now, is that part of the $500,000, or is that I was kind of confused about that.
Yeah, there was some discussion about hiring an outside consultant.
Right.
My view is I don't think we need to pay somebody to come and tell us what we already know.
Well, we already know the feeling we have.
And we live here in this community. We travel up and down the roads. So to have someone else come in and tell us about what we know didn't seem like the right thing for me to do.
And you brought up a good point about the land that we already have. If we were to abandon the project or strand the investment, what do we do with the land?
Well, I think my observation was simply that the mayor has been in opposition to this. To Parsons Avenue, right, in our public sessions.
Right.
But my point was simply that on numerous occasions, he has supported, along with others, I think unanimously, to strategically pick up these parcels that are in the right of way
as they come available.
Not by eminent domain, but just as they come on the market. In particular, the areas where Parsons Avenue hits Yosemite Parkway before it gets over the railroad tracks,
right,
and then the other side of the tracks as well, and also the North Bear Creek side.
The Bear Creek, I know they've acquired some property on the north side.
Right. So my point was,
are we going to keep doing this? I think that's what you asked. If they and there was some question about, the market, and they have to be available to buy. But the reality of it, Mike, is that as long as that's in the general plan, I kind of feel that as long as it's in the general plan, money could flow to it if it becomes available. Grant money, like you say, if a parcel becomes available, the city can apply for some sort of grant. And this is the concern, I think, is that we're still, even though it may be at a glacial pace, we're still proceeding on this project. And I think that's where there needs to be a come to Jesus as far as we are going to proceed with this as a city or we're not. And that wasn't decided Monday. And I just, without beating it to death.
Well, I think by not changing course, status quo remains.
Exactly. Until the general plan comes up for review again, which is in when?
Well, probably 10 or 15 years.
Is it that long?
It's a long planning document.
So
I mean, we have to take a long-term view when we
Sure.
talk about community planning, especially with, we've got half of our city roughly that lives east of G Street,
Right.
and we've got arterials that are on 1 mile increments,
Right.
G, M, R. But once you get to G Street, we don't have any other arterials. And to be clear, Parsons Avenue is not in the general plan as a major arterial.
Oh, I thought
It's
it was.
It's a minor arterial.
Okay.
It's not in there as a necessarily as a truck route,
Right.
which
Yeah.
there's a difference.
That's true.
So, there's a lot of things to think about. We've got to figure out how we're going to proceed. But in the meantime, it's it's in the general plan, and
Yeah.
it's one of many projects.
Well,
It's
it
not
was
going to happen overnight.
It was interesting to see your observations. I'm always, it's interesting to see how you think about things that I hadn't thought about. What do we do with the property if we do abandon it? There was talk about, hey, we'll make it a park. I thought, boy, that's a doggone expensive park. Because I know we paid some pretty premium prices during the boom for some of those parcels. Some I think we got at a good deal. I know we've been looking at trying to sell some land. I think the mayor's wanting to sell the police station side. I don't know if that's still on the horizon.
Yeah, it's definitely a topic of discussion. If we've got someone that can put it back on the tax rolls and develop that land, I think we'd love to entertain that.
Well, let me switch subjects for a minute. I know we've talked about Parsons, and I only got you for one more segment. What about McNamara Park? I have been over there. There's a big sign, and it says park closed until April of 2014. I know they've had some issues, and I remember when this project came up, it was $2.6 million of grant money. There was a lot of anticipation, how we were going to spend it, if we had some extra money for splash pads, those sorts of things. I know that the contract, whether it was local or not, as far as the engineering, was a big deal. Seemed like we overcome a lot of hurdles, and all we were down to is, hey, let's get it built and it's going to open. What happened?
Yeah, so in fact, I was over at McNamara earlier today, checking on progress, and we as you said, we did get $2.6 million in grant money to be able to just really revitalize and give that park a facelift. And one of the real showpieces of that park renovation was 2 artificial turf fields.
Yes.
And the reason we got that grant was in part because they're drought resistant, drought tolerant.
Yeah, which is important, more important than when we first got the grant.
Right. So, and it was frankly a big portion of the expense on the project. And there's been some challenges. The field as it is today isn't up to the standard it needs to be.
Is it both fields? I thought it was the natural grass surface that was the issue. Is the AstroTurf fields have issues too?
No, it's the AstroTurf.
Oh, it is the AstroTurf,
Yeah.
because the natural grass surface is somewhat undulating and a little swampy. I know that was in the paper. Maybe I misunderstood.
No, it's the
Draining?
AstroTurf field. And I can't go into all the details because we're trying to work it out with those guys.
Sure. But we are working on it.
But we're working on it, and the city's position is that we pay good money for something, and we
Right.
expect to have something that's warranty quality.
Yes.
That we'll be able to walk away with and have the manufacturer warranty on.
Right.
And so that's what we're working towards.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, because I know one of the things I heard on another KYOS programming, and I'd encourage folks to stay and listen to KYOS programming on Saturday morning, was that we have a lot of soccer teams. And evidently, I want to say 2,000 or 3,000 kids
It's amazing,
involved in youth soccer. I was just incredible by the number. And evidently, they were planning on using these fields, and now they're maybe having to go to other fields, which is, of course, we would like to keep them here and on that side of town. So can you give me a time frame, or it's still up in the air? Hard to say, right?
It is hard to say. I don't have a time frame other than we're working as quickly as we
Quick as
can.
possible.
And unfortunately, it wasn't in time for the soccer season.
Right. Well, all I would suggest maybe before we go to our break is that we get signs, instead of saying park open 2014, April 2014, maybe indefinitely, or coming soon, or maybe a little anticipation there.
Build the anticipation.
I think those folks over there really are looking forward to it. That park is probably one of Merced's heavily used parks for recreation. I remember they used to have baseball games there all the time when I was a kid. Of course, Joe Herb, a lot of that happens. This was going to be a great park for soccer. So I really hope that you guys are, I know you're on top of it. Look, folks, we're going to go to our break here. We encourage you to stick with us to our third and final segment on Citizen Watch on this fine, cool Saturday morning. We have Mike Murphy in studio, city council member. First term, right, still?
Yes,
first term. Well, they keep adding years. I forget. You're 5 in the saddle now, right?
I'm 3 in.
Three in and 2 more to go.
That's right.
Folks, we'll be right back. Stand by. Folks, welcome back to the third and final segment of Citizen Watch here on this fine Saturday morning. It's finally cooling down, and it's not cool just because we have Mike Murphy here in studio. Truly, the weather has turned. We almost had 50 days in the valley above 100 degrees, and let me tell you, that's hot, and that's a long-term deal. I really hope that we get some rain this winter. The irrigation season is ending the 1st of October. I did my last irrigation with MID, and I appreciate them taking care of us little garden parcels. But, we have Mike Murphy here in studio, and we were talking about some of the issues that have come before the council, McNamara Park, the Parsons Avenue deal. But I wanted to talk about something that's kind of fun that we've really had several events all year, which was the 125th anniversary of the city of Merced. Now, I can't say what that is. It's not sesquipotential. What is it?
125th.
There you go. That's what we always say. And we've had a lot of events over the years that you and Mary Michael Rawlings have spearheaded. I know you don't like to take all the credit, but I know that you have done a lot. And I wanted to congratulate you that. And I think the culmination was Mercy Gulch Days.
Yeah, so if you missed it, Mercy Gulch Days was last weekend, September 12th, 13th, 14th.
Yeah, 3 days.
And boy, it was a good time. We had a lot of fun stuff going on. So we had some good musical acts to kind of open things up on Friday evening. And then Saturday was the biggest day, and we had things like chainsaw artists, Old West gunfight shootout downtown with reenactors.
Wow.
We had magician. We had a bunch of just great musical talent as well, and then food and vendors and all that kind of stuff. So our time capsule was there. It's actually not too late if you still want to make a submission to our time capsule. We're going to seal it up for 50 years. So
when's the last date for people?
Anytime this month is still okay.
Anytime in September, if you want to put something in the time capsule, and we're not talking a car, obviously, something small, newspaper article.
It's got to be something small. You can bring it by the office of the Greater Merced Chamber of Commerce.
That's cool.
And make a submission, and we'll fill it up as much as we can. We've got lots of submissions, and get everything in there that we can, and seal it up for 50 years. And
50 years.
Yeah.
So the 175th anniversary, I don't think I'm doing the math. I think that's going to be a touch and go for me unless they have some big medical breakthroughs. But I just want to give you congratulations. I know it's a lot of work working with people. You mentioned at the council meeting there was 1,000 different ideas, and you had to cull through those.
We did, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, not only just putting together the activities, but deciding what to do, and had community meetings about what our 125th anniversary was going to look like. So we had a Founders Day back in April at the Downtown Theater, and we had a concert in May in Courthouse Park, and then this was the final installment downtown at Bob Hart Square.
And not to diminish, Mary Michael Rawlings did a heck of a job. Former city councilwoman. I think it has a family to look after, and you do too, and the two of you really did a great job.
I can't say enough about how great it was to work with Mary Michael, and even though she wasn't on the council anymore, decided not to run, she did volunteer to stick around.
Yeah, loves Merced and wanted to see that happen.
Fantastic job.
It's really great. I want to talk a little bit about the homeless situation, the DART team, some of the things we're doing to change the image of Merced. But before we get to that, I want to talk about something that you were very instrumental in, and we've pursued in this business incubator. I think we call it Matchbox. And the idea is to pair some of the technological advancements, discoveries, what you have coming from UC Merced with private industry. And you also do this in your private life away from the city council.
Right.
And so this is kind of a natural for you. You saw the opportunity because you've done this in your job. Mm-hmm. And so explain a little bit, because there was some concern. I know some of the council members had a concern. Hey, we're giving away $600,000 in rent for 10 years potentially. What are we getting? So what are we getting by this public-private partnership, and why did we participate as opposed to putting it out there at the campus?
Yeah, and it truly is a public, it's a partnership. And it's a three-way partnership between the City of Merced, UC Merced, and the Small Business Development Center. And as you mentioned, in my career, we don't get paid really for being on council in any meaningful way.
$30 a
monetarily,
month, folks. $30. Oh, my shorts.
Before taxes. So it's a way to, as the campus grows,
Yes.
Be able to foster those ideas and take them from the classroom or the laboratory into the marketplace.
Right.
And those things don't just happen on their own. There
No,
has
they
to be the right environment. There has to be the right support network around to do that. There have to be people that have experience in building companies to be able to be there as mentors. And so it's been a real passion for me and something that I've been talking about even as I ran for council 3 years ago. So it's exciting. What sort of at a high level, we've got space underneath the parking garage, the first floor, the ground level, at 18th and M in downtown Merced that's been vacant for, I think, 5 years.
Yeah, the old district attorney used to have that, right?
And so this is an opportunity to, our contribution to this three-way partnership is not coming out of pocket in cash in any way, but simply allowing the Matchbox to use this space to grow companies that we want to keep here in downtown.
And this has
in
been
Merced
tried
area.
in other, this has been tried in other cities with universities, and they call it an incubator, right? A business incubator, or this kind of the generic term for these things?
Yeah, that's sort of the generic term, an incubator or an accelerator.
Accelerator.
The working name that we're using is the one you mentioned, the Matchbox, and it sort of has two meanings. One is it's a place where you come together and pair ideas and people and match them together. But it also is the Merced Area Technology Clearinghouse.
Merced Area Technology Clearinghouse
Matchbox. And so it's actually not a 10-year lease; it's a 5-year lease
with a 5-year option.
Right. So we hope it's more than 10.
We hope it's 20, or 30, or forever.
But we'll reassess, and it's not simply at the university's option, but whether we want to allow them to continue on.
Right. Everything has risks, folks. And to those detractors out there that say, the university has enough money, get real. Come on. We weren't using this space. What does it cost us? And if something good comes out of this and we invent the new widget, I mean, we can talk about anecdotal stories about discoveries in science that have now made it into the mainstream. Every time you heat up a TV dinner over there on the Meals and Wheels, folks, that came from the space program. So it's one of these things where you don't know what's going to come out of the university. We have a lot of young minds out there that are doing fantastic things. Mike has done this in the private sector, and I would just encourage those folks that maybe are a little pessimistic. Let's give it a shot. We got 5 years. Let's see what happens. Like Mike said, this could turn into be a really good thing.
Yeah, it's low risk and potentially high reward, and some of what we have to do as a community is keep our educated people here.
Well, that's one of the things we've seen lately in the paper. We talked a little bit about it in our first segment, Robert and I did, before he had to go away. We talked about poverty, and we talked about the numbers that came out in the paper and our education level, what we can attract, those type of things. And, without getting, I think, what you're doing on the council with the Campus Parkway, the business incubator, we know what we need to do. But what do we do about some of the problems that we have with the homeless, with the folks that do live on the fringes of our society? Do you think we're doing enough? Because we have people in the community that say we're not, and that we need to have more alternatives. We have the D Street Shelter, we have the Rescue Mission, we have some faith-based organizations. Do you think we're doing enough?
Well, clearly we still have a problem, despite our best efforts. And I think we need to continue to, have an outreached hand with things that we can do in terms of the assistance that's already available. And you mentioned some of them. We do have beds that are not filled in our shelters. And you've got members of society that, for various reasons, want to camp and want to live on their own. For those that want some assistance to get back on their feet, sort of short term, and turn things around, I think we need to really make sure that we're there for those people. But not everyone has that mentality.
Right, but the direction of the city, and I think the council, is those people that don't want to comply with the programs we have. We're not going to allow just camping in Courthouse Park like we did a few years ago.
That's right. We don't just allow camping. We've got city codes, and we've got and just as you would expect that I would keep my property in compliance with code.
Right.
You can't. We all have to live together, and we all have to abide by the same set of rules.
Well, Mike, and maybe you don't want to step out on this, but I get frustrated when I hear we don't do enough. You say we have beds available. We can't just cater a program to every single individual. What do you tell those people that, hey, you can't ask them to move along until you have a place for them to move along to? We have it already,
well,
right?
I think we already have those resources. Now, whether they choose to go is a different topic, but I think we do have resources.
And to deal with those folks that don't want to move on to the resources we have the DART team, the Disruptive Area Response Team, and this is a direct reaction to the business owners, specifically in the downtown area. But I understand they're all of Merced.
That's right. So we were in the fortunate position of being able to add a few additional officers to our police force through
You guys have got some heat for that.
Some federal DOJ funding. And my view at the time, and still is that the best use of those officer positions would not be to add another patrol car whizzing by, but to really try and tackle some of these quality of life issues that vex us here as a city.
Okay.
And we're all aware of them.
Yes, we see them every day.
And whether it's homelessness or panhandling, and they're separate things,
right,
or prostitution.
Yes, over on 16th Street we had some issues.
Right, we need to really focus on those things, and so the DART team is there to do that, and they've been in operation now for a short period of time and are having good results doing it.
Well, I'm glad to see it. I know we seem to eradicate one problem and another pops up over there at the Bradley Overpass, and I'm not sure if that's in the city's jurisdiction. I understand that's some Caltrans property. We have another shanty town, I call it, going up. And again, the image that gives to the city, I mentioned on one of the shows, folks coming over Yosemite, over the bridge, they look down and, does it give the kind of image we want as a city? Like you talked about, retaining the kids that we teach here, the university students, trying to attract business, raising our education level to hopefully attract some of these good things. That's really, I think, what we're talking about. And so some people that say, hey, you're picking on vulnerable members of society, I say no. I think we have opportunities for those folks if they choose to get them. So I'm glad to hear you confirm that. I don't think we're a cold, heartless city, but put to bed the rumor, are we buying bus tickets for our homeless to Turlock?
Not at all to my knowledge.
Okay. That was in the Merced County Times, kind of an inference from the folks at Turlock. I don't know if you read the article, but they said, please, Merced, do not send us your homeless. We have a handle on the problem down here, or up here rather, and we don't need any more people. They evidently have ID cards. They work closely with the faith-based organizations. They try to get these folks in. They don't want anybody new coming in. They don't want to get the reputation of being easy for public services, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I am concerned that Merced County, not so much the city of Merced, is becoming that sort of spot. And I applaud Stanislaus what they're doing.
Right. And to be clear, the city council doesn't provide those social services. Those are all county services.
Exactly.
And Turlock has the luxury of not being the county seat in Stanislaus County.
You bring up a very good point.
So they're not seeking those social services in Turlock the way that they would in, say, a Modesto or even a Merced.
One thing I want to end the show with is a very important issue that is going to be facing the voters this November, and this is Measure T. And this is where we're going to district elections. When you were elected at large by the entire population of the city of Merced, and you represent the entire population of the city of Merced. Now we're talking about doing something different. Explain to the folks why it's important, and you just got a couple of minutes.
Okay. Yeah, so this November, voters in the city of Merced will see Measure T on the ballot, and it's asking voters to approve going to district elections, 6 single-member districts in the city of Merced. It's not increasing the size of the council or changing term limits or anything. It's just simply ensuring that council members come from the various corners of the city.
And there will be a mayor. There will still be a seventh person, and he will come from one of those 6 districts.
That's correct. The mayor would be at large still. And so we're hopeful that voters will see the wisdom in this and approve it for a couple of reasons. One, I think it would make us more representative. I think that's important. And also there's a financial component. There's a real financial component to it in that if it doesn't pass, we will likely be in litigation.
Sued people for...
Right. We were able to hold off that litigation while we put this measure to the voters. But the reality is that if the voters don't pass it, it'll be implemented by court.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen that. In fact, Visalia went through this where they put it up to a vote. It didn't pass, and the court came in and imposed its districts on the city.
Oh.
And the statute, the California Voting Rights Act, is written in such a way that these groups can recover large amounts of attorney's fees.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd like to be able to do this our way, the way that the voters want to do it. We hope that there'll be support for that, and so we'll see how things turn out in November. It's not an election about what the particular boundaries are going to be of the districts,
Just whether we go to
but whether we go to districts or not.
Well, I know you've been advocating some educational outreach by the city, but mail absentee ballots I think are coming out the 6th or 7th. It's pretty quick. So folks, make sure you look in your ballot information and try to get informed, stop somebody from the city council. But we're out of time. It goes quick. It's unbelievable. We appreciate, Mike, you coming in and talking to us here on Citizen Watch, kind of giving us an update. We need to have you come in more. There's so many things we could talk about.
Yeah,
folks,
I'd love to.
Please stay with us for the programming, the balance of Saturday morning. We have Tea Party Straight Talk coming up right after this show. We encourage you to tune in next week when we'll have another exciting edition.